Welcome back to Deliver Me a Podcast, part of the Hallmarkies Podcast Network. I am your co-host today, Kaycee, aka Hallmark My Words, and I am joined here with lovely ladies. And we have Cammie. Say hello.
Hi, Cammie Clemens, aka Hooked Hardy, aka Very Loving Postable.
And we have Jess.
Hey, everybody.
And we also have a very special guest. She is your best postable friend on the interwebs and ours, Amanda. Thanks for joining us today.
Hi.
So, Amanda, could you tell us a little bit about how you discovered Signed, Sealed, Delivered? That's something we always like to ask.
Yeah, my aunt actually had discovered Signed, Sealed, Delivered when it originally started, and I hadn't. And a couple of years had passed, and she actually kept telling me I needed to watch, and I didn't. And she bought me the DVDs and gave them to me, and they sat around for a bit. And then finally I sat down and I watched For Christmas was the first one that I saw, because she hadn't given me the series. She gave me the movies, a few of the movies. And so I watched For Christmas and I loved it. I was like, oh, this is the best thing I've ever seen. I need to find out how it started. So I actually went back and got my hands on the series and started from the very beginning. And from the pilot episode, I totally fell in love with that story. It follows the story of a young lady who has Hodgkin's lymphoma. And I actually had Hodgkin's lymphoma when I was 16. Mm-hmm. So that story really hit home for me, because it's not a type of cancer that you normally see on TV. And it was really cool to see a young woman kind of go through that, how it kind of changes you and come out of it on the other side stronger and all of that. So that was really what got me completely hooked.
Wow. That's so cool. And I love the fact that your aunt was like a postal evangelistic postable before it was a thing, right?
Yeah.
That's so funny. And then you also run the Facebook group too.
I do. Yeah. I'm an admin on one of the Facebook page. It's going great. We've doubled in size in the last couple of years. We're over 10,000 members now, and
whoa.
So yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, that's so exciting. And then I know also too, there's been a bunch of like postable meetups across the country. Are you responsible for putting those together? I think there was one in Florida.
There was
actually last fall.
In November. The original one that I went to, I wasn't at the original one was in New Jersey, and I didn't go to that one, but I was lucky enough to go to California for the meetup that we did for Home and Family. And myself and I think there's about 20 others of us met in California, and we had a luncheon with Martha Williamson. And
oh, what a sacrifice.
Yes, I know.
I would have died.
Oh man.
Yeah, we didn't know that Martha was going to be there. We knew that Crystal yes, and Kristen were going to be there for the show, and we knew that we were going to have lunch afterwards, but we had no idea that Martha was going to be there. So we were sitting in the audience at Home and Family, and all of a sudden Martha walks out, and we were all just like, are you kidding me? Like, I mean, what do you gonna do? And so she came out and introduced herself, and she was so sweet, and we kind of thought that was going to be the end of our time with her. We moved over to our luncheon, and she was actually the one there greeting us as we walked in the door.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I mean, I opened the door to this beautiful luncheon, and there she is standing there, and hi, I'm like, and just the kindest, most generous soul I've ever met. So sweet. And she brought a bunch of her friends from the TV community, and they had lunch with us too, and just answered any question. I mean, it was a dream. It was magical.
Wow.
So, and then that was followed up by the second meeting in Florida. Somebody they wanted to plan a fall meetup last year, and I was not going to be able to go because of going to the California trip. And somebody was like, well, let's go to Florida. And I was like, really? Florida? Like, there's nothing to do here, especially where I live in Florida. And they were like, yeah, no, let's do it. And so all the ladies came down here, and I think we had close to 20 of us again, and spent a long weekend together and just talking Science is Delivered and hanging out. It was wonderful.
That's awesome. And Jess, that's how you met Amanda, right?
Yes,
Last fall,
that
'cause
was
you
my
came
first
down?
meetup, and I took a friend with me because, meeting strangers from the internet. I would tell people, they're like, what? I'm like, no, it's like real.
Can I just say something crazy?
I know, and it's like, it's crazy that you would go and meet people you don't know from like the internet because of a show, but it's like everyone I met, I feel like was exactly like their online personality. Like they matched who they were. Like you felt like you already knew them because you did, and then like now there's just a face there. But like everyone is pretty like true to who they were online, I think, as well. So it was really, really fun.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Can I just say on that note, I have never had the pleasure of being in a Postables gathering, but not this past December, but the one before that, so about a year and a half ago, I was in the hospital at the beginning of December with emergency hernia surgery, and my best friend had tweeted out to the Hardys and the Postables, hey everybody, please send my dear friend Cammie get well wishes. She's in the hospital for emergency hernia surgery. And I said, oh, you're such a sweetheart. And Kristen came on and said get well soon, and a couple of other people. And then the night that Eric's movie premiered, Welcome to Christmas, I was still in the hospital. I was getting so stir crazy and restless, and I just said, okay, I'm giving up. I'm turning on the Hallmark movie. And I started to live tweet. And Amanda comes on and says, I'm so happy that you're here. How are you feeling? And I said, oh my gosh, you remember that? And she said, of course I do. And are you doing better? I was like, yes, I am. Thank you. So that was my first big time interaction with Amanda. So I can personally vouch for the fact that she matches her personality perfectly.
So sweet. And yeah, it's been so fun because I think when I started watching it, I think I just tweeted it out there, #postables, and like all of a sudden they started popping up.
Yeah.
So fun.
Like you put the hashtag and then they're just there. They just like swarm you, but in like a loving way.
Right. It's so fun. All right. So we are going to get into the episode recap, and we are recapping The Treasure Box, which is personally one of my favorites in the TV series. Outside of like the 45-minute episode series, the movies, I mean, that's a whole nother ballgame, but The Treasure Box. All right, so we are starting off with the Postables have just received their Dark of Night award, and Rita is prepping for Miss Special Delivery Colorado. She is Miss Denver Main Branch, and they discover a piece of mail, and it is a puzzle box. So I have a question for y'all. Have you guys ever done a puzzle box before?
Never.
In a game? Not in real life?
Okay, I haven't either, but I've seen them done, and you have to have a very intricate brain for that, I feel like, because how Norman was just like,
I was about to say, why do you think it's Norman who figures it out?
I mean, circles and triangles and carved in a box, I would be like, I don't know. There are 16 circles here, so I guess maybe like knock on it 16 times. I don't know. So that's just me. I'm sure there are many others much smarter people out there than I am. But Cammie, did you want to say something?
Oh, I just wanted to point out that Oliver is busy polishing the Dark of Night awards while the other three, they're working, So we got Mr. Vanity over here polishing his Dark of Night award.
No, cleanliness is next to godliness. It's very important.
That's right.
My
right.
mistake.
Way to call her out on that, Amanda.
Nah, I still hold to it. He's polishing his award going, yay! And everybody else is working.
So Norman he doesn't physically break it open, but he cracks the code and he opens one compartment of the box, and he discovers that there is a key to a safety deposit box. So, of course, they go back and they discover they discover the bank and all this good stuff. And Shane and Oliver decide they're going to go to the bank and retrieve what's in the safety deposit box while Rita gets ready for her pageant. Is it real? Is it a pageant? We call it a pageant?
I think so, yeah.
Because it's kind of like a pageant question quiz thing. I don't know. I think of Miss USA. But anyways, Rita and Norman are left behind so they can get ready for the pageant and everything. And so Shane and Oliver go to the bank together. And of course, our hearts are thrilled because we love Shane and Oliver together alone.
With Jason. With Jason.
With Jason.
Jason. But
party
before we get to that,
party connection. Jason, he was in season 1. He was in season 1 of One Calls the Heart. He was part of the Tolliver gang.
Oh, interesting. My mind has been blown. But before we get to Jason,
That blew your mind.
yes, for effect. So before we get to Jason, however, let's talk about another small child character named Ryan. So so Cammie, Amanda, y'all are mothers of multiple children. Have you guys ever had a moment in public where a child is just acting up, like mischievous?
Completely.
Any funny stories y'all want to share about a Ryan incident in your life that you can relate to? I know I'm putting y'all on the spot.
You could have told me.
Sorry.
I don't think my kids have ever been that bad in public.
Yeah.
No one's ever pulled the fire alarm?
Fire alarm. Yeah, we've never gone down that road.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's ever nobody's ever done anything that serious. I mean, they've colored on the chalkboard at church and wouldn't come when I called, or they or they would act really, really bratty towards me when we were in public, and we would get home and I would say, "Excuse me, how were you talking to me when we had company or when we were out there in front of all of those people?" And they would get all sheepish and all of that. But yeah, it's never been that bad.
So thankfully, typical kid stuff. Me too. My girls have done the typical kid stuff. Like we went to a opening of a Smoothie King and my daughter got a hold of a pen and started writing on the seat, and I felt so bad. But then they were cool. The owner was like, "Oh, I have a little child, I have a little son or daughter about that age." They would have totally done it too, but I was highly mortified. But yeah, typical kid stuff, but not sneaking under someone's desk and reaching up to get the chocolate and hiding under the desk again. And this poor mother is trying to look for Ryan, and you could see Shane. And I thought it was so funny and so cleverly done, the angle of the camera. So the camera is facing Shane and Oliver, and you can see Ryan's hand grab the thing of chocolates, and Shane's giving him the side eye, like
the glare.
So Jason, bless Jason's heart in the most southern way possible. If I could be Caroline, our dear Caroline, and say, bless his heart, I totally would. Jason takes Oliver and Shane down to the vault that holds the safety deposit box as Ryan is hiding from his mother. So Shane and Oliver are now in the safety deposit box downstairs. Ryan's upstairs running amok, doing shenanigans, eating all the chocolate. And he does the unthinkable, which is pulling the
fire alarm.
And I want to see a bank vault that's that fancy, because I worked at a bank before and it is not like that. I'm like,
I've been in a hotel that had a bank vault downstairs like that was an old bank vault that got turned into a bar.
Oh.
And it looks just like that. It's super cool.
The
Wow.
vault
The vault.
turned
Yes.
into an entire bar.
Yes. In a hotel lobby.
I want to go to that bar.
Yeah, it's super cool.
Wow. That's super impressive. Maybe it's like an architectural thing from that time period.
It must be, yeah, because I don't think any modern things have anything like that. And on that, it's a good thing that Jason is such an airhead, because they should have never been allowed to see the contents of that box.
It's so true.
Disclaimer, this is
I
fictional,
know.
right? They put it at the end.
We are
Gotta
suspending
have
our
my old
disbelief.
Teller knowledge.
So the alarm causes the bank vault to shut as Shane is just standing there going, no, 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 no.
That's exactly how she said it too.
I know, right? And of course, they try to get out. Oliver calls the desk, and who answers? Ryan answers, and then leaves the phone off the hook and leaves them stranded in the bank vault. And Shane, at this point, is not only is she panicked, but she is fed up with Jason, and his specialness. And
I think it's really interesting that we basically have two men at opposite ends of the scale. We've got Mr. Knowledge over here that has so much knowledge that he just starts to kind of spout it off sometimes. Not quite as bad as Norman, but we've got Mr. Educated, Mr. Knowledge, Mr. Boring. Sorry, Oliver, but just we. Amanda's looking at me very horrified.
Okay.
What was that?
I said, that's not okay. You can't say that.
You know what? I love watching
Oliver.
I
He's
love watching
scary.
Oliver and Shane, but I don't think I personally could ever fall in love with Oliver. not the original version of him. The one that gets a little more loosened up after Shane enters his life. But the original Oliver, I don't think I personally couldn't do it. But so we've got Mr. Knowledge over here, and then we've got Mr. Airhead over here. So we've got a juxtaposition of two opposite ends of the scale, and it's just I never thought about it until just this second that is what's happening, and it's a really interesting dynamic.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll get into a little bit about Oliver's character later too, because I feel like this is also we see a different side of Oliver in this episode for sure.
Jess,
Sure.
say it. This
What?
is the episode where
Where Oliver flirts for the first time.
Yeah, okay. Well, we're getting there.
this is the one because it changes it. This is the one where he flirts with her for the first time.
Okay. Do we want to go there? Because I don't see it. Amanda, do you see it in this episode?
No, I don't know that he's exactly flirting. I think it's easy to try to feel like he's flirting because of the flashbacks. The flashbacks definitely add to the romance in that moment, but they don't see those flashbacks, at least they don't know that each other is thinking those things. So I don't know that it's exactly the intent of what's going on there, especially since he's also just written his wife a letter. So
Yeah.
I don't know that his mind is exactly there when he's in the middle of writing Holly, but I mean, he definitely cares for her, and you can tell in that moment that he doesn't want her to be scared, and he definitely wants her to feel comforted by him, but I don't know if flirting is exactly right.
There's the one time, what did he say, Kimmy, that when he looked right at her? I forget
It's
the line.
Are you talking about the carburetor?
I
Because
don't remember.
that's the first time.
When he looks right at her and he says something that's kind of like innuendo.
Will you marry me?
Yeah, he looks right at her.
But the first time the first time that he flirts with her is when she's playing the word game with him, and she says a word and he says the first thing that pops into his head, and she says car and he says berater, and she laughs and says that's a Norman answer, and he goes I know, and then he kind of stops himself. So
maybe
he started
more playful than intentionally flirtatious, but
yes, I don't think it was. I don't know. I will not argue that at all. He was not intending to flirt, but he started flirting with her and then he stopped himself.
It was
So-
neat levity.
It was yeah, you just go ahead and justify it all you want, Amanda.
No, I mean, I don't see that as flirting. I saw that
Oh, I
more.
do.
I don't, because I was just, he was in the middle of writing the letter, and Shane is pestering him to play the game. And I felt like his answer was just kind of like a smart aleck answer because he can be kind of snarky. And so I felt like it was his way of kind of being snarky, kind of being like, get off my back about this dumb game. And I kind of felt like too, because remember in the last 2 episodes ago, I believe it was, he was reading that book, How to Get Back into Fun or something like
How
that.
to get the fun back.
How to get the fun back or whatever. And so I feel like that was his way of trying to.
He needed a sense of humor, so he has one now.
Yeah, that's kind of how I read it.
Give me your face.
You guys go ahead and think that.
I think you can see it both ways, but I guess too, like when I think about it, like if that had been Rita, I don't know if he would have said things the same way.
Nuh-uh.
Like if you replace it, it's a little different. But I mean, I see it a little more playful, I guess. Yeah. I don't think he's intending to flirt, because like you said, he had just written that letter to Holly, and he's still a young man, as he continually tells us, and cannot do anything about it. So, but it was definitely a more playful, borderline. Kind of.
But yeah, and then when he's reading the letter, he doesn't even read it. He looks straight at Shane and says, "Will you marry me?" And I'm like, oh.
So we're gonna get to that.
I know. I'm sorry.
But I will say real quick on the note of what Jess said about would Oliver have said that to Rita? Would you talk to your little sister the same way you talk to your best friend? And so, in my opinion, no, he probably wouldn't have said that to Rita, but she's like a little sister to him, whereas Shane is becoming like a very close best friend to him. And so he's going to banter with her differently than he would banter with, say, Norman or Rita, because he looks to them like, well, first they were his employees. So there's like that, line that he has never crossed. And I'm sure it's hard for him to, move that way towards friendship because he's so black and white. Shane has just come in here and she's broken all the rules for Oliver. And because of that, there's that relationship where they're constantly at each other's odds, but they're also becoming close. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of how I justify that's my response to you. Jess.
Like an intense debate.
That's my rebuttal. That's the word I was thinking of.
Okay.
All right. So we kind of discovered that Oliver has a sense of humor, as we noticed from the carburetor answer. And
he's getting the fun back.
He's getting the fun back.
Excuse me.
He was a child at one point. Oh, you know what? We're going to put a poll. Remind me later. We're going to put a poll.
We are going to put a poll.
Postables. Was that flirting Oliver? Let us know.
The most highly debated thing of 2020. Most highly debated thing.
You know what? If that's the highly debated thing of 2020, then that will make this whole year just be so much better. All right. So they're playing the game. Christmas. Or Shane says Christmas. He says Holly. And Shane is like, the plant or your wife? And he doesn't answer. And we see he's writing to said Holly. Oh, that's a hard one. All right. We're going to move back to Rita and Norman.
Get off the topic before Kaycee goes somewhere.
Rita, sweet Rita and Norman. Norman is trying to figure out how to tie his tie, and Rita is like, let me help you. Just kidding. I can't. And so they are getting ready to go to the reception and the pageant. And so Rita has a great idea. She knows that somebody else can tie the tie. She's thinking Oliver. They can't find Oliver or Shane because, well, they don't know it, but we know they're locked in the bank vault. But lo and behold, there is our dear friend, the man who does it all, Ramon. He ties Norman's tie. And I love when Rita's like, this is my Norman. I mean, not my Norman, but
This is my coworker, Norman.
This is my coworker, this is Norman. And you gotta love Rita and Norman's, like, they're so innocent still, and they're still so awkward. I just love it. What do you guys think about Norman and Rita's relationship in this moment? Because it's definitely growing since, beginning. They're at least talking to each other and they're comfortable being together. Whereas before, I mean, episode 1, they were very like, at least Rita was very, very nervous and like squirrely about it. And Norman was just kind of like, I'm going to pretend I'm so aloof right now. And I am aloof.
And isn't this the first time that Norman really interacts with Ramon a little bit? Because it isn't like the first time he's just a little jealous.
It's the first time they meet, so
you can kind of see him like.
I think he's more in shock. I think he's more in shock by Ramon than anything. Just that he gets flipped in the face by the tie constantly. Just boom, boom, boom.
I think I can see a little jealousy because I think he can kind of see how Rita's like Ramon, and all that. But yeah, they're adorable.
They are precious.
I wanna know what Amanda thinks.
Ramon is a lot, I think, for anybody to take in. So that moment was hysterical because she was already super nervous about their little interaction and coming together and everything. And then he kind of comes in there and his huge personality just kind of knocks everyone over. And he ties the tie and says something like, or she says something like, wow, I've never seen anyone tie a tie like that. And he goes, of course not. Like,
he's so self-assured.
Norman's just sitting there going, I don't know what's happening. As Norman does. Like, he's so smart, but when things are going on, he just gets so overwhelmed. And I think when it comes to Rita, he gets even more overwhelmed. So that whole experience was just a lot. But he's so cute. I love Norman.
He's so sweet. You just want to like give him a hug, He's like a huggable teddy bear. Norman's so
like
cute.
a woodland creature.
I want to pat him on the head.
Yeah.
It's okay, sweetie. It's gonna be okay.
Jason, you don't do that to Norman.
Oh no, Jason, I go, okay, you're good. Go. Two very different sentiments, one gesture.
So speaking of Jason, Shane and Oliver are given the opportunity to open the box and they find that there are more letters in there. So they wrangle Jason into giving him something to do, essentially.
They try to teach him something. I think Oliver says maybe we could instruct him.
So the letters, and there are a bundle of letters in the safety deposit box that they've opened and whatnot. And the first one is dated January 2nd, 2008. All right, I have to know, upon your first time viewing this, did you guys think it was turn of the century 1908 or 2008?
2008.
Yeah. 2008. I even remember saying, "Oh, that's the year I got married." So it's just, there was no doubt about it.
Even listening to the letters read back and forth. No,
not a single clue.
So I was the same, except for when we got a glimpse of the letter and the handwriting. That one, when I saw the letter and when I saw the handwriting, I thought that looks like an old person's handwriting. Like, it looked old to me because, okay, super weird. I've studied like cursive and like all that stuff, and it just reminded me of something from like way back. It didn't look like modern handwriting as like how people would write today. And I've seen a lot of, right, that's a different thing. But it just kind of threw me for a second there. But I was still under the impression it was 2008. It just, the handwriting really threw me off. And maybe that's just me.
Kaycee is more perceptive and smarter than we are.
I didn't call it. I did not call it. But there were some things they would mention, and I'm like, well, that's cute. But 2008, like, I was very confused about why it seemed so old to me. I think that was, and like the train. I think there was a mention of a train that he was going to go see her. Or
he hears a train whistle.
Yeah, and that was another thing, because I'm like, you don't really hear that very often, like the whistle. I hear trains and I hear the things going up and down and whatnot, but
we lived near a train, and I used to hear the whistle when I grew up.
yeah.
So it was like that outdated, but
Well, I mean, when I think of whistle, I think of like Thomas the Tank Engine. Like whoo whoo instead of like like from modern trains, but whatever. This episode is gonna get a whole lot of my like, sound effects, I guess. All right. Anyways, moving on. Jason, Oliver, and Shane ask Jason, what have we learned? And he says, well, we got an ugly chick named Catherine and some guy named Providence.
The eye roll was so strong from Shane after that statement.
Gosh. Oh man. I died. Especially when he was like, and some guy named Providence. And I'm like, what?
Just want to slap him upside the head. Just like, will you wake up?
And then Jason, he is hungry and needs a nap. So
So I question that because he said he always naps after lunch. Who naps at work?
Him.
Jason.
That's true.
Do you go to nap after lunch? Like, where is he napping? Is he going to the vault daily to sleep?
he's got a little corner in the break room. It's like a toddler.
He's very comfortable sleeping in that corner, which normal people would not be able to sleep like that.
Oh no.
He's not a normal person.
Oh god, that's a good point, because I'm sure it's hard floor, cold, sitting upright.
Apparently running out of oxygen, according to him.
Yeah. Because he's the most trustworthy source of that information.
Yes, Jason was the one that said that once the vault seals, it can't be open for probably, definitely 12 hours. And that there's 13 hours of breathing divided by 3 people, 4 hours and 20 minutes of air, but Jason's air is debatable.
Yeah.
So
it's Snarky Oliver.
Snarky Oliver. So Oliver and Shane.
No, Shane says that. Shane
Really?
Shane
That was
said
Oliver.
no, he says there's 4 hours, 20 minutes between the 3 of us, and because there are 3 of us breathing, and Shane says, well, that's debatable.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Snarky Shane. My bad. I love both snarky versions of them. Yes. I love Stark.
So Oliver and Shane decide they're going to take the letters and they're going to alternate reading the letters. And at first, I mean, it makes sense. There's a whole stack of them there and you're just going to pick one, and why should one person read them all? But it turns out that these letters are love letters from Jonathan and Catherine. And Oliver ends up reading Jonathan's letters and Shane ends up reading Catherine's letters. And it's just the 2 of them in the vault.
How convenient.
How convenient indeed. Now, have to ask y'all, listening to these letters and these heartfelt sentiments, I mean, did you just like melt and die? I don't know how Martha Williamson does it. Like, wow. Thoughts, comments.
Martha is absolutely genius with everything she writes, and the intent in the way she words things is absolutely beautiful, and those letters are no exception. Like, it was so well done, and the way the scenes were shot, and the flashbacks that they mixed in that kind of showcase those similar moments in the Shane and Oliver relationship. It's beautiful.
Yes. And it's just so amazing that she can take her voice and manipulate it into Jonathan's voice and then into Catherine's voice and still keep like that same tone and that feel. But it's like, it's not her writing. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is obviously her writing, but she can do so many voices, and that's so much talent too.
Yeah. Go ahead, Cammie. I saw you.
When it showed the 2 of them dancing and both of them saying, "Why did I let you go?" I've said this I have said this many times, and this is no exception, but when it shows the flashback of them dancing and just staring at each other, and then you hear both of their voices saying, "Why did I let you go? Why did I let you go?" And I just, you had to mop me up. I was a puddle on the floor, and just the back and forth, the way that scene could have been so boring. If it had been done incorrectly. You got two people sitting at a desk, maybe one of them gets up to move around, and they're reading off of pieces of paper. That could have been so boring if it had been done incorrectly. But you are sitting at the edge of your seat wondering what they're going to say next. And they're just going back and forth, and you are taking this journey with the two of them, and you're falling in love right along with them. And it's just, it was so beautiful.
Yeah.
It reminded me of when I was a teenager. I met a guy in Houston when I was visiting my brother, and he and I met pretty briefly, but we were attracted to each other, and we corresponded through emails for months. And every once in a while we'd go and visit my brother in Houston again. Actually, I had two brothers in Houston at the time, but every once in a while we'd go and visit, and I'd get to see him, and we'd visit and all of that. But I mean, we basically had a letter relationship. And it's just, so that was kind of sweet because it was kind of nostalgic for me. And it just, I know from personal experience that it can happen. You can fall in love with somebody through letters, and just, oh my gosh. Everything was just so beautiful, so eloquent, and so genuine.
Yeah. And I have that quote here. There's nothing crazy about falling in love when something tells you against all common sense that you have found the one you've been waiting for the one I've been waiting for all my life. Why did I let you go?
Oh gosh, I'm gonna cry.
and kind of backing on some of that, like, that's the genius of Martha, is that she makes every word count. Like, it's not, there's no fluff in there, it's either funny or moving or whatever. And Cammie gives me flack about this all the time, that I am not a romantic, but this scene does move me. It does not make me a puddle on the floor. I'm not that far, but even someone like myself who's not not a romantic, that's the genius of Martha. She can make me feel moved and get a little misty-eyed. And
we were watching it together. We had our phones on Messenger video, and then we're watching it both on our own devices. And I looked at my phone and I said, "You're getting misty-eyed. You're getting misty-eyed."
Just a little.
I totally called her out.
I think Martha has made me cry more than the entire things I've seen in my whole life, like, combined. Like, the entire sum of movies that have made me cry is like this big. Sign Still Delivers made me cry a lot. So that tells you something right there.
Yeah. And I'm in the middle. I'm in the middle of Cammie and Jess.
One of my favorite parts of California was we watched To the Altar with Martha and
oh my word,
and Kristen before it premiered. And I was at a benefit because I actually had written a review for that. So I had watched it already. So I got the beautiful insight of already knowing what it looked like, so I could watch everybody else watch it, which was just magical. And you get to some of these scenes, and Kristen, who made the movie, is sobbing, so moved by the work that they had done. Those scenes are so beautiful, even though she knows it's coming. She was still crying at the table watching it with us, and it was amazing. Just not a dry eye. You sit there and it's a room full of women, and they're all just sobbing at Martha's work, and like for Martha to be sitting there while we're all just, it's just Oh, it was wonderful.
Did you cry too? Did you cry too, Amanda?
Oh, yes, and I had seen it a billion times already.
Now, the real question is, was Martha crying, or is Martha like a stone face and everyone's like falling
I
apart
did not
around
see
her?
Martha cry, but she was enjoying taking it all in. I think she was doing the same thing I was doing, just like watching everyone take it in, because it's so cool to watch other people experience Signed, Sealed, Delivered for the first time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And I think too, that's a special thing for, the actors to see it in full, because when you're doing a scene and you're in it, like obviously what's going on, but like taking a step back and seeing the whole thing is amazing. And just putting all the pieces together. Plus, I'm sure they shot that months and months before. So, I mean, and think about all the takes and the bloopers and all that stuff. So just seeing one completed picture is fantastic. And interesting too with the letter reading to each other. Typically, in my mind, usually Signed, Sealed, Delivered would have done the flashbacks. So Shane is reading about Oliver's reading about Jonathan and Catherine meeting this first time. Typically, in traditional Signed, Sealed, Delivered sense, you would have that flashback. We would see Jonathan and Catherine meeting at Times Square. We would see the ball dropping. We don't see any of that. And it's left to our own imaginations. And, we don't need to see it because, first of all, the writing's fantastic. We can already picture it. But then it's also like, it's kind of like a aha moment. Like this is more, this letter story is more than the letters. And I think that is absolutely brilliant. And it's not something that somebody would notice the first time as a newbie postable, but when you're watching it again and again, you pick up on these things like, oh, this is like a pivotal moment. So
we're watching them begin to fall in love.
Yes.
We're watching them begin to fall in love.
Against their common sense. So speaking of falling in love, there are 3 letters left. And they decide they're going to each read, take turns reading again. And this is again, back to the debatable question. Oliver reads the final letter from Jonathan. Well, it's the first set, whatever. You all know what I'm talking about. And Jonathan is pouring his heart out to Catherine, and it's so beautiful. And he asks her, "Will you marry me?" Read by Oliver. And he obviously had known it was coming, and he looks straight at Shane and says, "Will you marry me?" And Shane is a puddle, like a physical puddle. She's not there. You'll just see, a bunch of water on the desk. Like she just melts, kind of like,
she's Frosty the Snowman.
But she is completely moved. And throughout this reading process, and we'd alluded to it, before, that as they're reading to each other, they're thinking. We see their thoughts. We see Shane is remembering the first time, her first interactions with Oliver. And then we see Oliver also having some, memories and stuff of Shane. And it's like this conflict in both their minds because they can't be together. Oliver is married. And he just wrote a letter to Holly. And he's married. There's you can't do anything. It would be wrong on so many levels for them to, acknowledge their feelings towards one another because they can't, because Oliver is a very straight-laced person. He's very faithful. He's a gentleman. So he says, "Will you marry me?" to Shane via Jonathan's words. What do y'all think about that? That's a lot. It's a lot of emotion right there. Ooh, ooh, ooh.
I think that constantly comes back whenever we do any type of postables poll as what's your favorite moment in the series. That moment, the entire bank scene tends to come back as a favorite scene. And I think a lot of it is because of that moment. It kind of leads to this moment of both of them saying things that they wouldn't be able to say if it were the two of them, he can't say that to her, but he gets to get it off of his tongue completely innocently. She gets to feel it completely innocently. And as an audience, we get that moment without any indiscretion. Like there is
Completely innocently.
No impropriety.
and there is a collective Postables puddle at that moment. You know, I think every woman that watched that, other than maybe Jess, went,
She had the mop.
Yeah, I was cleaning everybody up.
She had the mop, and her mistiness was adding to the puddles.
tear that she flicks away as we all just fall to the ground.
I love this.
She's the
imagery.
one patting all the rest of our head. She's like, they're there. We'll be okay.
We're all just like, you know, what do you do? What do you do with that? It's a lot. It's a very heavy scene.
For sure.
Yeah, the whole thing is very emotionally charged, and it kind of goes back to what we've been saying. It's just that writing that you just got two people in a vault reading letters, and everyone's on the edge of their seat. Like, it's so charged and so emotive and all of that.
And I think that the other thing that makes it so emotionally charged is this, in their minds, could be the last thing that they do if help doesn't arrive. And so they are taking this journey, and we already know that Shane becomes emotionally invested with every letter that they go through and discover. But this time she's triply invested because it is the last thing that she thinks she's going to do, possibly. And she has taken this journey with Oliver. So she loves hearing the story like she always does. And she's done this with Oliver. And if the letters end, if Catherine stopped breathing, is Shane going to stop breathing? So her emotions are very tied to this letter, because it's almost as if she thinks, if Catherine died, then I'm gonna die. And then she's there with Oliver, and she's losing it in front of him, which this is the first time that we've seen her lose in front of Oliver. She's become emotional, but she, a lot of times she's held it in with snarkiness, or just kind of stonewalled it a little bit, and
totally vulnerable. She lets her wall down.
Yes, completely vulnerable. She loses it right there in front of him, and so much so that he calls her Shane 3 times. So you know that he knows how serious of a connection this is, and just how carefully he needs to tread with her heart, because her heart is very much on the line right now.
Right. For sure. And is this the first time since the pilot that he's called her Shane?
I
Yes.
believe so.
Pretty certain that he has not called her Shane yet at this point. I'm watching stuff out of order, and so I have to kind of remind myself, but I'm almost certain. I am almost certain that this is the first time that he calls her Shane since "Come back, Shane."
And my dear Shane.
Oh yes, my dear Shane.
Yes. Yes. So the second letter is from a friend of Catherine, who informs Jonathan that she is contracted a rare form of pneumonia. And then the final letter, and this is when we discover the true, like the first and last name of the letter writer, Jonathan. He writes to Catherine's friend, letting him know he is on his way. He will be there. And if he doesn't make it in time, tell her that he loves her, and all of these wonderful, beautiful words. If you've never seen this episode, which, by the way, pause, go watch it and come back.
I hope that they don't listen to this until they've seen it.
Right? You never know. This might be a gateway to the Postables. And so we find out that it is from Jonathan Walker, and this is the moment that Shane panics. Is there another letter? She's very invested. Oliver calls her Shane 3 times. Shane is sobbing, and he holds her. He goes over and he wraps his arm around her and he hugs her. He is comforting her. And that moment too is just so beautiful because there's nothing inappropriate about that moment. Like, it was so delicate and gentle the way he was like comforting her as though she had like lost her best friend, you know. It was just such a beautiful moment portrayed by Kristen and Eric. So.
There is such power. I've really come to notice this. There is such power in those two little words, come here.
Mm-hmm.
I've really started to track how emotionally charged those words are when I see them in other films and other TV shows. And I tell you, you would never think that the words "come here" would get your heart racing, but they do. It is so amazing how much those two words, and they're so simple, really. Yeah. It's so amazing how much they mean and how much feeling can be put behind them when you have the context. It just, wow.
Is it the words or is it the epic hugs that follow?
You know what?
It usually leads to a really nice hug.
I think it's a combination. Because the hug is not going to mean much if the words are not emotionally charged, if they're not said correctly. So, but I definitely think it's a combination of the two, because also by the same token, if the hug falls flat, then the words fall flat as well. Yeah. So, but it's amazing how much writers use those two words to get us really going, you know.
For sure. All right. Well,
we have experienced just thinking about it.
I was going to say, we have experienced a lot of emotion here, ups and downs and hearts and puddles. Let's get to something more fun. So,
the pageant!
Actually, before they get to the pageant, they have to get let out of the vault. And Norman, obviously, he's like, I knew it. You guys were locked in the bank vault. And the security guard can't believe it. And Rita lets them know that there's plenty of ventilation because the vault is climate controlled.
And it's all okay because Norman has a cousin for everything.
I love how they said, he has a cousin. He has a cousin. You know? Can we talk about Rita's 60 hairdo? I mean, she's got such a 1960s hairdo going on there. It was, and even a 1960s necklace. I went, wow, that whole ensemble screams 1965.
Her whole style across the entire series is a bit 1960s, though. She kind of, I feel like she has kind of an old school feel. Just like her, she's an old school soul too.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like she belongs in that era.
Yeah, because she's got those really cute A-line dresses that are just like, woof.
And her cute little glasses.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but
with the cardigan, so cute.
I don't know. For some reason, it didn't seem as out of place. But when I saw that ensemble, I went, whoa, hello Beehive.
Yeah, she was very Jackie O in that moment. Like, that outfit, very classy. Very, very classy. So Jonathan and Catherine, going back to them real quick, Shane and Oliver deliver it to Jonathan Walker, and they hear arguing, and they're kind of like, ooh, what's that going? And so Jonathan Walker appears. We find out he is Jonathan Walker the Fourth, and this box actually belonged to his great-grandfather, and he thought he'd never read the letters. So we have a happy ending with the bow on top, and Shane and Oliver encourage them to read the letters to each other, which is perfect timing because they were arguing. So, you know, fall in love again, you two. And then finally, the pageant. Rita is doing the pageant. She has one last question. 13 modes of transportation. She says 12. And this is when everybody's hearts are beating. Shane's heart is beating out of her chest, and she grabs both Oliver and Norman's hand. And
do that thing you do. Yeah. Like, seriously? Who says it like that? Who calls praying, do that thing you do?
I mean, who calls that guy Providence?
Oh gosh.
Hey, Providence.
Oh. Lightning is going to come and strike our computers.
And the 13th one is mules. And that was something that had been mentioned in a previous episode about the mules. So everything kind of ties together. She wins the pageant. They start singing Miss Special Delivery. Everybody's proud. The balloons are coming down. The confetti's going off. And everyone's so happy for dear Rita. End scene. It's really how it ended. In one quick word, how would you describe this episode?
Roller coaster.
That's 2 words.
I feel it is one. I think it is one word, isn't it?
No.
Okay, I gotta go look.
Well, while she's looking, Cammie?
Charged.
Took mine.
Sorry.
Dang it, I'm wrong. What?
I'm sorry, you're what?
Well, no, I see it both ways. I lied. No, it's both ways. It's both right.
I don't think so.
Cammie, hush.
Amanda, how would you describe this episode?
Perfect. I think it has a little bit of everything in it, and it, they've got their dark moments of thinking that they're stuck in there, but they use those dark moments to create these beautiful moments, and the letters are perfectly done. And then the realization that they have at the end, especially when they sat down after with the couple that they gave the letters to, and they had that moment after having time to reflect, and you could tell the way they looked at each other was different than before they went into the vault. And this was even after they were no longer afraid for their life. Like, that time meant something. So this episode is really like a pinnacle episode in the series. I think it changed a lot of things for the entire series. Yeah,
for sure. Perfect. And I would say breathless, since Cammie took charge, because it did leave me very breathless as they were reading the letters to each other.
You could choose puddle.
Puddle, yeah.
You could choose puddle.
And then I could change mine to mop.
Alrighty. Are you guys ready for trivia?
I always say I am, and then I always do horrible.
Alrighty. I have a few questions here, so you will have time to redeem yourselves. Which 2 presidents were postmasters?
Andrew Jackson,
Harry Truman, and Abraham Lincoln.
Amanda, what did you say?
I said Abraham Lincoln. I couldn't remember the second one.
Lincoln and Truman. Woo! Okay.
Andrew Jackson?
Jess? The first thing that popped in my head.
All right. After Oliver reminds Rita that Bing Crosby, Rock Hudson, and Walt Disney were postal workers, what Disney ride does Shane mention?
It's a Small World.
Yes. Yeah, because she says it is a small world after all.
Small world.
Okay. Here's a tricky one. What was the pattern Norman used to open the box?
Oh, jeez.
It was like 2 down and something to cry. I don't know.
One up, 2 across, 1 down.
No, well, y'all kind of. It was 1 up, 2 down, 2 up, 3 down.
I got 2 down.
I got 1 up.
A quarter of a point.
Amanda, did you get any of that?
Nope.
Listen, my trivia questions the last time I hosted were way too easy, so I was like, let's up the antes a little. All right.
Gosh, that's what you pick is the puzzle? Oh, man.
You know what? I thought, because you're so detail-oriented, I thought you were going to write that one down, to be honest. Okay, fourth question. What book did Norman use to identify the bank? What was the name of it?
I knew it. I knew you were going to do that, and I didn't write it down.
Paraphernalia.
Oh, Amanda, say it again, Amanda.
A compendium of miscellaneous banking paraphernalia.
Yes, you got it.
I knew you were going to do that, and I didn't write it down. I knew it.
Okay, what time was the reception, and what time did the dancing start?
6 o'clock and 8 o'clock.
Yes, 6 and 8. All right. 2 more. I gave y'all bonus questions this week because I was like, oh, full of trivia. Okay. What was the name of the security guard that Norman talks to? And he's like, oh, you guys are really down there.
Cricket.
It's Homer Finnegan.
Oh.
Oh my gosh. Wasn't it, Amanda, was that a question on trivia when we were in Florida? I feel like we
Well, maybe. And I believe it was probably crickets that night too.
We should insert that, like,
That poor
cricket sound.
actor. He
he
must feel so unloved.
Oh, poor thing. Bless his heart. And then final question. What was the name of the hospital that Catherine was admitted to for her rare form of pneumonia?
St. Joseph's.
Yes. Crushed it.
It never
All
answered
right.
it. He never asked me the questions I know the answers to.
Oh, Jess.
I knew the box number on the safety deposit
I
box.
did that too.
I knew all 13 modes of postal transportation. Never the ones I remember. It's
It's gonna be the running gag.
it's what's the Disney ride when I've never been to Disney World or Disneyland and I don't know what rides are there.
Alrighty, y'all. Let us know if you guys knew every single one of those answers. I will be so impressed. And let us
I'm
know.
looking at you. I bet you know those, Anne.
Yeah.
I bet so. I think Anne at least knew Homer Finnegan.
I bet she did.
Listen, and shout it out. Let us know if you got, or you know what? If you listen to our podcast, we have a bunch of trivia questions. Let us know if you get 100% because we will have you on here. We will have the ultimate quiz episode.
Oh
with
man, that
Postables.
would be something.
I'm just randomly throwing that out there. All right, y'all. It's been fun, but we need to go. So where can people find you guys? Amanda, where can people find you and where can they find the Facebook group and all that good stuff?
The Facebook group you can find by just looking up Postables in the group, and it's just the Postables fan page. And you can find me on Twitter at Mandolin3183.
Awesome. And then Jess, where can people find you?
You can find me at Jess BSW blog on both Twitter and Instagram, or check out my website, beneathstillwaters.com.
Awesome. And Cammie, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Cammie Drama Girl, on Facebook, the Hooked Hardy Facebook page, and my blog is hookedhardy.com.
Awesome. And,
And yes, I do postable stuff on the blog.
if there's a connection with the Hardys.
If there's a connection.
That's right. All right. And then you can find me on Twitter at Hallmark My Words. And you can find this segment of our Hallmarkies Podcast Network at Deliver Me a Pod on Twitter. And we do now have an Instagram, Deliver Me a Podcast. Thanks to Jess. Thank you. Whoop, whoop. You can find Hallmarkies Pod on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, wherever you find social media, we're there. And don't forget to check out our merch store. We have a ton of postable stuff created just for postables, lots of fun things, and you can get it in a t-shirt, a mug, a notebook, pillows, very random things, stickers, magnets, anything, you name it.
Not a cape, not a postables cape.
Not a postables cape. And maybe if I get adventurous this weekend, we'll do postable masks because TeePublic is now making masks.
But Kaycee,
like
we want that t-shirt with a cape on it. We want that t-shirt.
Yes, working on it. Thanks for the reminder. All right, you guys, it's been fun. Have a great day wherever you are. Shout us out, and we will talk to y'all later. Bye.
Bye.